On September 11th, 2001, our American way of life was attacked. Everyone remembers where they were that day and how their lives changed from that moment on. The American Legion is committed to honoring the memories of those we lost on 9/11 and in the global war on terrorism that followed. As part of that commitment, the American Legion Tango Alpha Lima podcast presents a special series, 9/11-20-20-20. 20 episodes in the 20 days leading up to the 20th anniversary of the attacks that changed the world. Each of the 20 guests delivers a unique, first-hand perspective on 9/11 and our nation's response. Here is one of those remarkable stories.
All right, folks, we are back with another special edition of our 20 for 20 here on 9/11 with not celebrating, but honoring the 20th anniversary of 9/11. And I know I've said a lot in the past. I'm super excited about the guest, but this is my favorite one, largely because he's one of my best friends in the entire world. So everybody, this is Robert Douglas. And rather than go through his full bio, I'm just going to tell you about why Robert should hate me, but apparently does not. But back in 1997, I had skipped a drill weekend. For those of you that were in the Guard, you know, if you skip a drill weekend, you got to make it up. You got to do split training or whatever. So I had gone down to the National Guard Armory, and I was sitting there at the desk when Robert walked in, and he had freshly come off active duty where he was an air traffic controller, and he was thinking about joining the unit. And he said, "I don't know, man. It's an infantry unit, and I'm not infantry, but I'm worried what could happen if we got deployed." And I said the famous words, "Dude, we are never getting deployed. Like, of all the units in the entire world, Charlie Company, 3rd Battalion of the 116th Infantry will be dead last. Like, you have my word on it." And so Robert signed the paperwork. And what happened 2 weeks later, Robert?
Yeah, they told us that we were going to get mobilized to Bosnia.
It literally couldn't have been more than 2 weeks. Like, yeah, in terms of like hot takes not making it the test of the time, that one didn't take long to not make the test of time. And so Robert went from being a civilian air traffic controller, living a comfortable life with his beautiful wife and his 6-year-old and 3-year-old. Robert ended up spending 9 months in a tent with me. So
we had a lot of good memories, though.
We did. No one has ever been punished more for their sins, apparently, than Robert, who got stuck in a tent with me. So, Robert, great to see you, bud. It's always fun to talk to you. Your 9/11 story, I think, is one of the most poignant for me. You know, having been in the Capitol building that day, when I found out the role you had played in all this, I thank God that you were sort of at the helm. But tell us a little bit about your 9/11 story and where you were that day and what happened in your life.
Well, it started off as a beautiful day. I remember driving into work, and it was just a really gorgeous day. It started off just like any other shift. You know, I get into work, we're working a morning push, and then a guy, John Storr, I don't know if it was Richie Druga or John Storr, but one of them comes in and says, an airplane just hit one of the Twin Towers. And at the time,
I should interrupt you real quick, but tell them where you were working and what you were doing in case that's not clear to everybody.
Okay, I'm an air traffic controller. I was working at Cleveland Center. I was an air traffic controller, and I was working at Cleveland Center. And anyways, he comes in and he says some airplane hit one of the towers. And at the time, we were really busy, and I thought, well, it's probably a traffic plane or something. And then we continue in our shift, and then later on, somebody says a second airplane hit one of the other towers. So then I was offered a break, and I went on break, and I was in the cafeteria. I was talking to John Crouch and Joyce Filipiak, because we had just gotten to Cleveland Center. I was stationed at Washington Center in Leesburg for about eight or 9 years, and I had just transferred to Cleveland to be closer to my family. But so we were watching on television just like everybody else. And then we got a page. They said, we need all available air traffic controllers to return back to the control room floor. And when I got there, I went in, and the supervisor in charge was Richard Barnett. And he told me, I said, Richard, where do you need me? Where do you need me? And he says, I need you to sit with Stacy Parham at Indian Head. And basically what Indian Head is that it's an arrival sector for Pittsburgh, from people departing from the East Coast, like Philly or Baltimore, going into Pittsburgh. And also it works traffic from southbound, coming from Florida and all points south going into Pittsburgh. So we're working, and they had told us that New York Center had went to ATC 0, meaning that they weren't going to take any more airplanes. So you had all these planes, that were supposed to be going into New York Center, but they were all holding. And then within a little bit, we got an order that we had to land every airplane in the sky. And if you go on YouTube and you look at and you Google, air traffic ground stop order, you could look and see how many airplanes were in the sky at the time. I think it was maybe like 4,000. And then they told us that we had 2 hours to land every airplane in the sky. So we're working, and then United Flight 93, I remember my supervisor, Richard Barnett, we call it a dead scope, where basically you can pull up any sector in the center. And he pulled up United Flight 93, and he said, look at this. I heard him talking about it, and he was like, the airplane was climbing and descending. And, I didn't think anything of it at the time, because, it was being worked in a completely different area of the center. So we're working, and we're working, airplanes, trying to get everybody landed and all that other stuff. And then I got a call from the Imperial sector from Linda Justice, Bill Keaton and Linda Justice. They were working the Imperial sector, and they told me that United Flight 93 was in our airspace. They had got a report that he was in our airspace, and that he didn't have a transponder, but he had a primary target. And they said that the target was associated with the data block. And so I told Stacy, I said, Stacy, we're, I'm taking a handoff on United Flight 93, and I don't know what altitude he's at. So we have all these airplanes that's going into Pittsburgh, and then United Flight 93 gets he's heading towards the line of planes that we have going into Pittsburgh, and we don't know what altitude he's at. So Stacy has to vector, airplanes all out of his courseway, because we didn't know which way he was going. I mean, Linda told me at the time that she thought that he was headed to Camp David or headed towards the Capitol, and he was on a trajectory that he was heading in that direction. So, so then we get a report. So, he's close to some of the other airplanes, and we're asking some of the other airplanes if they can see him, if they see an airplane. And then I think that we got a report that he was at maybe like 11,000 or something, 11 or 12,000, but I don't remember, but I think. And then Pittsburgh approach, in the middle of we got about 15 airplanes going into Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh said that, well, we think that he's, we got reports that he's, in our area, and they closed down and they bailed. And I said, man, you guys can't bail. I said, because, we got all these airplanes coming in. And then instinctually, we just said, okay, we'll just reroute them to Palmer and Johnstown. And then in the middle of all that, one of the airplanes said that he saw a puff of smoke emanating from the countryside, and that and then Stacy asked him, could he? Well, first of all, I got to back up, because then I said, in the middle of all this, I said, Stacy, I think that I said we lost a primary target on United Flight 93. I don't see him anymore. I mean, the data block is in free flow, meaning that the primary target was gone. And then a little bit after that, we got a report from a pilot saying that there was a puff of smoke emanating from the countryside. And Stacy asked him, taking his own safety into consideration, would he circle around and tell us what he saw? And he said that he saw a large debris field of what looked to be a really large airplane, and it created a really big gorge, and that he could see fire from on the treetops and a large debris field. So then we notified the watch desk, and they notified the military watch desk, and they notified everybody else that needed to be notified. Simultaneously, while all this is going on, there was a bomb threat or something falling into the center. So they're evacuating. So we're working all these planes, and they're evacuating all of the controllers from the center. So 1 minute all the phone, 1 minute, you can hear 1,000 voices. You can hear all kind of conversations, and you can hear people talking and phones ringing and just controlled chaos. And then I look up, and it's just me and Stacy. We're in there. We're the only ones. And then along with Horace Schultz, we had an order to land every airplane in the sky within 2 hours. We were still taking airplanes from Washington Center primarily. I don't know, maybe 15 or 20. And so I look up, and then it's just me, Stacy, and Horace Schultz. And then Horace says, I have an order that we have to go down to one controller. And I look at Stacy, and I said, this is a real bomb threat, and this is going to be it, then your kids deserve a mother. I said, Desmond and Ross, Denise is safe. And, if something happens, then, Jack and Sam, they need their mother. And she didn't want to go, but I said, Stacy, you have to go. I said, Stacy, you have to go. And she really didn't want to. But she ended up leaving. And then I continued to land the rest of the airplanes at Palmer Airport, and Pittsburgh reopened. And, for the next, 50 minutes or so, we continued to clear out all of the airplanes, and when United Flight 93 crashed, I mean, I said a quick silent prayer for them. And, we just kept going, because the mission, you have to keep, you got other airplanes, and you got other people that you have to get to safety. So, you just keep going. I mean, you don't really think about it. You think about your training, and you think about, the mission. And then, the other thing that came to my mind is that, the military saying about I would guard everything when the limits of my post and only quit my post when properly relieved. And I didn't feel that it was time for me to go. I felt that I had more work to do. So anyways, so we get all the airplanes landed, and then I'm sitting there with Horace, and you kind of reflecting on what had happened, and then they said we have to go down to one person in the area, and Horace was, you know, he was an old man at that point. He's about 60 years old, and I don't, and he might have had hearing aids, and maybe he didn't, but he couldn't control any airplanes, and if something came up, I didn't think that he was equipped to deal with it. Even though he was a good guy and a good supervisor, but as far as being like technically proficient as a controller, I didn't really know. So I volunteered to stay behind, and then you saw the bomb sniffing dogs. They brought the bomb sniffing dogs through, and all that other stuff. And then about probably an hour and a half later, NORAD took over all the airspace in the United States. That's when the jets from Pittsburgh Air National Guard, they were patrolling our area. And so you sat there and we were reflecting. I was reflecting on what had happened, and I was thinking about my family, and I was just praying that I'll make it through this day safely. And then an airplane, one of the military planes said that there was a plane over Elkins, West Virginia that turned off his transponder, and that he asked, were we talking to it? And Elkins was in this, I'm not in control of Elkins. That was in Washington Center, but it was an area that I had when I transferred from Cleveland, it was an area that I had worked in previously. So I knew the guys that were over there working, and I called over there and I said, Elkins, this is Morgantown. I said, are you talking to an airplane at flight level 240 over Elkins? And they said no. And I said, okay. I said, there's an F-16, and he said that somebody just turned off their transponder, and that they have orders to shoot down any airplane that's not who turns their transponder off. So at that point, I said, at that point, I asked Bill Keaton. I said, man, Bill, I had to run down to the watch desk real quick, and I need you to watch this area. And he said, okay. So I'll run down and I tell Rich Reed, I said, Rich, I'm gonna need some help because I think it's a developing situation here, that an airplane just turned off its transponder, and I think this military plane is gonna shoot it out of the sky. Then, Rich Reed, he sent, it kind of pissed me off. I mean, at the same time, I was, it upset me a little bit because Stacy, who had worked United Flight 93 when they crashed, and everything that she had went through that day, she was the first one to come back. Her and Brad Kennedy, but Stacy was the first person to. I said, man, out of all the people that we had in the area, I mean, and everything that she had went through this morning, that she was the first one to come back. So she came back, and then I got her and Brad Kennedy up to speed about what was going on. And then we quickly established a team of controller to controller with Washington Center, watch desk to watch desk with Rich Reed talking to Kerry Johnson at, Rich Reed was our person running the desk on 9/11. And then he was talking to Kerry Johnson at Washington Center, and then they were coordinating military watch desk to military watch desk.
Yeah.
And then the F-16 says, I need to know, he says, I have radar contact on this airplane and I'm moving in for the attack. I need it. He says, before I fire, I'm gonna call and ask you one last time if you're talking to him. So then I call over to Washington Center, and I think it's Ron Myers. I don't know if it was Ron Myers or Ron Matika who was working. And then I said, Ron, are you guys talking to somebody at flight level 240 at Elkins? And he says, no, Doug, I mean, we're not. And I said, well, could you check on the, on the Marlington extended frequency, and could you check with Indianapolis Center to see if maybe he's sitting, if he's sitting on the frequency, because somebody's about to get shot down over Elkins. And I said, I think it's a friendly because he's just orbiting. He's not flying, and he's not flying towards something, but he's just orbiting. And then I call, Rich Reed is now standing outside of the area, and he's got Kerry Johnson on the phone, and he's got the military watch desk. And then the pilot says, all right, he says, Senator, I need to know, is anybody talking to this plane? Do you know who it is? So then we call, I asked Rich Reed, I said, Rich, is Kerry sure that we're not talking to anybody? He says, as far as I know, they're not talking to anybody. And then the military watch desk said that we don't have anybody over Elkins. And then Meyer says, Doug, we're not working anybody at flight level 240. So then we tell the pilot, sir, we're not aware of anybody that we're talking to at over Elkins. And then as soon as we tell him that, Washington Center pops up on the line, and they say, man, it's a friendly, it's an AWACS plane. Don't shoot him down. Don't shoot him down. So we didn't even answer him, because we had already given him the shoot order. And then we told him, do not shoot, it's a friendly, do not shoot, it's a friendly. And then
because we're running out of time here, and I want to make sure I get to Ashley, but obviously, I mean, it had to have come ridiculously close to shooting that plane down.
Stevie, the guy said, the pilot said, could you have imagined, with all of the chaotic events that happened today, if what it would have done to the national psyche if we would have shot down one of our own in the midst of all this confusion?
Crazy. Ashley, I don't know if you know you're on mute here, but you are up.
All right.
Yeah.
I have goosebumps. I am just in awe at your just the commitment. I can't even, how many planes did you help land?
Well,
in total?
It wasn't me. I mean, air traffic control is like being a soldier. Everything is a team. I mean, as a team, I mean, there were 4,000 airplanes that had to be landed. And,
Wow.
Us and my fellow controllers from everywhere, we all, did what we had to do. And I don't know if it was, 1 million or 800,000 people, but it had to be one of the largest evacuations of people ever. So it was tremendous. If you go on YouTube and you Google 9/11, ground stop order, and you just look at what happened over 2 hours, and it's fast forwarded, I mean, you will be truly amazed at what happened.
So Robert, I wanted to ask you about your relationship with Stacy. Are you still close with Stacy?
Yeah, I mean, I think about Stacy and Todd all the time, and I pray for them, and I check on them periodically. I think I have a special bond with Stacy and a kindred, is a kindred spirit that I don't talk to her all that time, but I think about her, and I think that she thinks about me, and I pray for them all the time. But they're two of my favorite people, and I love them.
Absolutely.
She was truly and it's funny that in air traffic control, in the military, if you go through a battle or you go through something tremendous, you get medals and bronze stars, and you get all this other stuff. As an air traffic controller, you get a pat on the head and told that, hey man, you just did your job. So she went above and beyond that day, and you know, she deserves some type of award or some type of recognition for, everything that she did, and not just her, but all the controllers. I mean, there's stories like this. I'm not the only one with a story like this. I'm sure that people in Boston and New York who worked those other planes that crashed into the towers and all that other stuff. I'm sure that they have their own stories.
Absolutely. So
All right.
powerful.
All right, Jeff, you are up.
I was stuck with the enduring image of an air traffic control setting that you see in movies. And it's always stressful, it seems like, at least their portrayal of it. So I'm wondering, A, if that's accurate, and then B, how much more intense was this, and in that level of intensity, how did you guys perform so well?
You're trained to deal with the stress and trained to deal with the intensity. I mean, most of the time, air traffic control is 80% routine and 20% extemporaneous. 80%, you got the same routes, the same planes flying at the same time, and they hit at different times, but you train and you learn how to do it. What made September 11th unique is that you went from 80% routine and 20% extemporaneous to being 100% extemporaneous. And that was just something that, you train for. And, you just hope that your training was good enough that you could, that you could survive. And we did. I mean, as controllers, I mean, it was controlled chaos, basically.
That's yeah, I mean, I don't really have, you covered the topic in your story so well. I don't have a lot of questions. I am curious about being there. Like, were you getting a lot of information other than about flights? Were you getting like the stuff that we were seeing on the news? Did you?
When I took a break, for the brief break that I had, we were glued to the TV sets like everybody else. But then, you go back to work, and then you're in that bubble. I mean, and when you're in the bubble, the only thing that you're concerned about is the mission. So I really wasn't aware of, all the behind the scenes events and all that other stuff. We were just, trying to accomplish the mission that we had to do.
Got it. All right.
All right, I'm going to end on a high note here, and we're going to talk a little bit about Robert Douglas and his history. So when we were living together under a bridge in Bosnia, you had two sons, Desmond and Ross, and you were a diehard Cleveland Browns fan and a diehard Ohio State fan. Then flash forward 15 years, and you're no longer an Ohio State fan. Now you're a Michigan fan because your son went to play football at Michigan. And then your son transfers to Rutgers, which is why you're wearing the Rutgers hat. And then your son gets a tryout for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So you sell basically all your Brown stuff, and you buy all your Pittsburgh stuff. So I'm asking this tongue in cheek because I know very well the answer, but where is Ross now? Where is Ross today, and who is he spending it with?
Oh, man, Ross is a New England Patriot. So, you're going to see me, I mean, I used to have a joke, you're my buddy, man, and I love you, but, guys from Boston, if they don't win a championship every year, man, they think they're cursed, man. I'm from Cleveland. It took, 50, the drive, all the bad stuff that happened in Cleveland, man, that's my life. I mean, you remember when I was in Bosnia and the Indians lost to the Marlins, I'm screaming at Tazar Hungary for Jose Mesa to give don't throw any breaking balls, throw the fastball, and then they lose. But anyways, I'm a New England Patriot fan. So, I used to make jokes and say, man, I don't like the Celtics. I don't like the Patriots. I don't like the Red Sox. I don't even like Boston clam chowder, but now. You know,
Well,
but now you're gonna see me, a proud papa with my New England gear on.
well, I can't wait. I can't wait for us to go to the Colts Patriots game here. And Doug, always great
Yeah.
seeing you. I love you, buddy. I miss
I love
you.
you, man. I love you, Mark, man. It's, thanks for having me. Thanks for giving me an opportunity to tell my story.
Absolutely. It's a story that needs to be told. And we've got people from all over 9/11. And I think the planes weren't, flying themselves. There were people that were handling on the ground. There were people up in the air. So Doug, I appreciate you, bud.
All right, love you, buddy. Hey, take care of yourself.
All right, everybody else, don't forget to subscribe to the Tango Alpha Lima podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you find podcasts. And while you're there, don't forget to rate us, preferably with 5 stars, and leave us a review. You can send us feedback and love notes to Tango Alpha Lima at legion.org. Jeff, Ashley, I'll see you tomorrow. Doug, I will see you at the Colts Patriots game, and then again when we go to New England for the Super Bowl victory parade. Everyone else, we'll see you tomorrow. Bye.
Take care, man.